Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode, Season 2, Episode 1 of Living on Borrowed Crime, Real Talk with True Crime Content Creators. Thank you guys so much for coming out today to join us. Joining me today is Beside the Dying Fire. For the last 8 years, he has covered everything from creepy riddles, urban legends, disturbing things on the internet, and even AI dating. But most prominently are his works in the true crime genre. His latest video, The Shooting of Sam DuBose, Self-Defense or Murder, marks his most extensive work yet at a feature length of 90 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me. Dying Fire. We're going to call you Dying Fire for the sake of
that
things.
Works. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You were first recommended to me years ago by Matt Orchard. He was on this show, or a similar thing to it. It might have been the precursor to this series. And he said, "You know somebody you should interview." I can't do a Kiwi accent to save my life. You know somebody you should talk to. Beside the Dying Fire, he's great. And somebody else on the panel, it might have been Dave's Lemonade. I'm not sure, but someone else on the panel says, "Oh yeah, his stuff is good." And I was like, well, "Okay." So I had no idea who you were.
Huge endorsements there.
I know. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Well, gosh, I got to talk to this guy." And then I started watching your stuff, and of course, life and everything else came in between. But here we are. Rock is like a hurricane. Before we get started, guys, though, at the top of the chat box, there is a link to the National Center for Victims of Crime donation page. Please take a look at that if you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And so, Dying Fire. So first off, congratulations on the if I can talk today. Congratulations on the new video. I watched it the other day when it came out, and I was surprised to see it because I hadn't seen much activity from you recently. I guess you've had some happy real-life events that have taken your attention away. I wanted to kind of use that as the jumping-off point to talk about your career thus far. And as I asked before, but just for everyone else's edification, you are a one-man shop. You do this all by your lonesome, correct?
Yeah, so it's just me. I do all the research, the writing, the recording, the editing, the uploading. When there's a problem with YouTube, then come back and I got to edit something else. Peeling it down and then re-editing it, and re-uploading it. That's all me.
So your choice of subject matter is relatively eclectic, depending on what we're talking about. What do you need from a story to catch your attention enough to work it up? Like, what's your mental checkbox of what any particular subject has to have before you'll take the effort to make a video on it?
I think it kind of depends on what kind of video it is, because I do different types of video, for better or worse. Whatever I find interesting. With this one in particular, the Sam DuBose video, it mainly was that there is really it's hard to find a right answer there, right? So obviously everybody can agree that somebody doesn't deserve to be shot from a minor traffic stop. And everybody can agree that maybe the reaction from the officer was a little hasty. But at the same time, everybody also can agree that when an officer tells you to do something, you should probably do it, right? They're armed and that's their job. So I like things that sometimes don't have a clear-cut answer. I also like things that are very clear-cut, kind of like I did a video on Prince Andrew, the Epstein interview, and that's very obvious. His behavior is just so obvious that it's easy to point things out there. I like things like that, or just things that are sort of make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Those kind of cases or those kind of mysteries. I like going through those.
In my relatively limited attempts at true crime, the one thing that I always felt like I needed, and maybe this is just a result of the sort of Jim Can't Swim pedigree, is I have to have some video footage, interrogation, news footage, something else to hang the narration around. Do you think you would get away with, and I will confess, I have not watched every one of your videos, but would you be hard-pressed to do a video where you had no additional media to work with in telling a story, or does a story have to have those elements to it for you to make it attractive to you as a project?
Everything has its own challenges. I think when you have the video, whatever it is, interrogation footage, courtroom footage, whatever it might be, then you can that sort of becomes your framework. So it makes it a little easier in the planning stages, because then all you have to do is sort of piece out what from that media is interesting that can drive the story forward, or that can base something around, or narrate the analysis around. So I like that, but I also have a few where there just wasn't any real substantial footage or interviews, maybe security camera footage or just some photos. That takes a little bit more work in the planning phases, because now you have to really tell the story in a much more detailed way and create the analysis yourself. So it's definitely easier. I definitely like having the more footage, the more media out there, the better, usually, for the creative process.
And has your criteria for what you need to grab your interest, has that evolved over the last 8 years?
Yeah, it's definitely, when I was first starting to do these sort of Jim Can't Swim interrogation analysis videos, the bar was a little bit lower, so I'd see a case, it would have interrogation footage. I'd look at it, I'd read about the case, summarize the case, pull out the interesting points in the interview, and it was a little bit more cut and dry. But then as you evolve, and like that style, it's still popular, but it's not as popular as it was 2021, 2022. You kind of have to find other things to make the video interesting, or other areas to analyze besides just pointing out, oh, he crossed his arms, he was, or he's looking down. That stuff has to evolve with the content. So, and guys like Matt Orchard, or some of these other guys who sort of have transitioned from solely interrogation room footage to body cam, or using body cam and interrogation room and courtroom footage, and all of it sort of comes together to create like a mini documentary. I think that's sort of where it's headed as far as the content that has media out there. I think that's where it's sort of headed, is using all the footage that's out there to create a more comprehensive picture of the case, instead of just taking the isolated police interrogation and sort of breaking that down. I don't think that's going to be necessarily enough anymore.
Oh, I thought that, Jim Can't Swim was such a revelation to people in the style, and just, of course, Kazumi's voiceover and everything else. And yeah, like Matt Orchard is one of what I've called the original Jim personators, and who really started off as a springboard and then found their own way working out of that. Because what you saw, or at least what I saw as a viewer, was channels trying to duplicate Jim Can't Swim, but just doing the barest bones effort. And I've described this before. It's just raw interrogation footage, no analysis, no cutting in, and you've got at the beginning about 2 minutes of summary of the circumstances of the case, and at the end 2 minutes of summary of the resolution, like they just copied it off of Wikipedia, and that's a video. And that just doesn't cut it, as far as I'm concerned, as a viewer anyway.
Yeah, that's not what interested me with Jim Can't Swim either. It's you have to have the feeling that they care about what is going on screen, because if I just plop 40 minutes worth of interrogation footage on you without any context or any analysis or any voiceover at all, it's like you can just watch that on your own. You don't need my analysis of that. But when you really use the footage to paint the picture of the case, or it's even difficult sometimes trying to, and I know not everybody watches every single one of my videos, but even points that I brought out in previous interrogations, it always feels kind of like, am I going to bring that same point out again in this, even though it's kind of mirroring it. So there's always this feeling that you have to bring out something more profound every time you analyze an interview or whatever it is. You want to bring out something that you haven't touched on before, which sometimes is difficult and sometimes not necessary. Sometimes it's good to bring out the same things because it establishes certain patterns of behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's unavoidable because humans operate similarly even in different situations and things. Yeah. But it's still all relevant to individual cases. There are very few interrogations that all by themselves can operate without too much hand-holding. I think of Stephanie Lazarus or Russell Williams or something, where they're basically stage plays all by themselves. You don't even need any commentary. I mean, even if you don't know the particulars, the course of the conversation tells you that. But a lot of them, they don't. And the amount of time and effort. By the way, to the audience, I forgot to mention, in the description, there are links to Beside the Dying Fire's YouTube channel, Twitter, and Patreon. Please take a look at those when you have the opportunity. I wanted to mention, condolences on the subtitling. I know the pain of manually subtitling interrogation footage. It is not fun, and for those of you in the audience that don't know, if you're a one-man shop, unless you are very lucky or somehow you really, I don't know, tend to some kind of AI text-to-speech or vice versa thing, the subtitles you see in true crime videos, someone is having to do that. Someone's having to transcribe sometimes the most terribly recorded audio and trying to decipher just a word here or a word there to get it down. So kudos to you on that. I've only had to do it a few times in my YouTube career, but ugh.
Yeah, it's that's brutal. Actually, one time I messaged Matt about that because I was kind of like, you're not doing this every time, right? Like, you have a program or something. How are you doing this? Because he was doing it for like, 10, 15 minute stretches of interrogation.
I know.
And I was like, are you doing this manually? And he's like, yeah, I am. So,
it is hell.
I tried so many times to streamline the process. I tried to use CapCut because CapCut has, I mainly edit in DaVinci Resolve, but you have to pay to get the subtitling in DaVinci Resolve, and I wasn't really willing to do that. Yeah. So I tried CapCut, and it auto-generates the captions, but you still got to go through and make sure they're right. And then, I like having the different colors to denote who's talking. So there's still editing involved. And sometimes, if I feel like the audio's good enough, I won't subtitle it, and if it's really bad, then I'll go in, I'll do the manual. But especially with a case like that last one, that video is like an hour and a half long, with a lot of courtroom footage and dialogue, and so if the audio is kind of good enough, then I would leave it, but if it was really bad, then I'd subtitle it. But now I kind of take it on a case-by-case basis because it just adds like hours to the editing process.
I'm well aware. And that was something else that I both appreciate about your latest video. And I was thinking about this the other day because there is so much AI slop in true crime on YouTube right now, which, I don't want to completely throw shade. Some channels, they put some work into it, and I understand, FOIA requests and trying to get footage from police departments is not easy, but just dropping body cam footage unedited with a few little comments here and there, and then some AI voiceover. It's just not the same when I take a look at something like what you did with your latest video. The depth to which you did the research, the courtroom footage, the police footage, the analysis, the research into the documents and the case files. You can tell that there's a person behind that somebody cares about this, and it's not just a product, And so I really appreciate that. I also, holy cats, hold on. Pardon me, 1 second. I also really appreciate Brett Ide. Holy cow, man. Thank you so much. That's ridiculously generous of you. Thank you. Unfortunately, my end is bugging out, keeps kicking me. Hopefully, it'll allow me enough to post this. I'm in a bad service area. Brett, thank you. I don't know what to say. You've once again just overwhelmed me to the point of lacking words to express my appreciation. Hope you can find a good signal soon, or if you don't, it'll be here waiting for you when it's done. Thank you, Brett, so much. Wowzers. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. Human versus AI. What has been your experience, and I know you kind of indicated this earlier before the show, with working with YouTube? Because one of the reasons that drives me to do this series in particular is just from my limited experience, both making true crime content, but also talking to and admiring other people, is that there are now, in my mind, two columns. There's content, and then there are documentarians. Because content creators are just people that just spew out stuff because it's there, because it fills up the channel. It's just fluff 9 times out of 10, at least in comparison to people like you, like Misery Machine, like Mr. Black, who actually make quality, thoughtful, passionate projects out of these subjects and care about what's going on. And it's not just, doling out body cam footage of someone who, stole $10 from a store or something. In trying to, as the title of the series says, make a living on this, what has been your what has been the consistent gripe you would have with interacting with YouTube and working in this genre in particular?
Um, I actually don't really interact with YouTube too much. There's some things that go wrong with certain videos, like, it's hard to know what's going to get picked up on, especially when you're using news footage. Sometimes
Hmm.
certain companies will claim a piece of media, like an interview, or even just like, you want to give something context, so you show a minute long snippet from a news segment,
Right.
and then that gets clipped, and I've had some crazy things clipped, over the years, that it's like,
What's fair
really?
use anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, in the context of a 45-minute long video, they're saying that this 1 minute of news
Right.
footage is not repurposed enough. So
Yeah.
that's always frustrating. And then some of the things with YouTube are, I acknowledge, are sort of my own creative fault, you could
Okay.
say, because I know if you talk about YouTube and the way the algorithm works, for certain channels, is they try to find out what your audience likes, and when they see the content that you're putting out, that's how you'll get the impressions, is they push that content to your audience, and they see what gets the clicks.
Hmm.
I do a variety of content,
Right.
so it's sometimes I think that the amount of variety I do sometimes hurts me in some ways, and in some ways, it sort of keeps me interested. So I'll have videos that do really poorly and then blow up like 6 months later. They'll get, thousands of views. And then, this most recent one, the Sam Dubose video, I'm proud of the way it came out, but
Hmm.
it didn't do great view wise. And that's kind of something to be expected. When I jump from different things, it's all around the same uh, sort of genre. Like, I put on my channel, it's true crime and strange things, right?
Right. Hmm.
So it's sometimes I'm going to be doing an unsolved sort of mysteries kind of thing, where I go through some unsolved cases. Other times it's going to be a really deep dive, like this last video. Other times it's going to be, weird things that I just find online. Like, I like all of that stuff. And I think it sort of falls under a similar umbrella, but uh, it's sometimes hard to get traction on YouTube when you spread yourself out like that. But that's what keeps me interested in making content. So,
Yeah. I mean, YouTube wants to have, ease of explanation. So this channel is this, and this channel is that, and that channel is this. And if you're not like slotted into one thing, or you don't have like 4 different channels for 4 different genres, you're punished for that or something. Like you can't just indulge in your own individual interests, one thing to the other. I've been doing that for 9 years now. Like there's some subjects, but it's just basically whatever catches my interest on a particular day. I made a video of back in the olden days. Sure, there was a lot of social commentary stuff in there, but yeah, I did movie reviews and TV reviews and stuff. So and then it's YouTube, but they want it to be TheYtube 9 times out of 10, and
yeah.
it's really frustrating. Have you been hit with any? And I want to do like a panel. I've been meaning to do a panel discussion specifically on this subject. The amount of new speak that true crime content. I'll use the phrase for the time being. The documentarian sounds so much more official. That they've had to come up with for regular phrases like someone has self-deleted.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Have you encountered any issues, or have you come up with any of your own signature phrases to cover unpleasant vocabulary?
No. Maybe I should, because it just feels, I can't help but like, I tried it I think a few times, and sometimes I can't help but like cringe
I know.
at the
It's so
phrasing,
silly.
because if you say, a man committed suicide, or whatever it is, or sexual assault, like there always has
Oh,
to
you
be
just
another thing for
just
that.
demonetized my stream, dude. How dare you? This whole stream. I go. No. I'm not. It's not even monetized. No, you're fine.
So it just feels a little bit like, what are we doing here? The
Yeah.
audience is mature. The content
You
that
hope.
you're watching is, the content that you're watching is supposed to be a mature analysis of it.
Right.
So let's all be adults and say it. But I understand that there's certain things with YouTube where words and phrases. This kind of leads me into something that I had a theory about,
Hmm.
because other than the video I did about Prince Andrew, and I can understand that was a very hot topic at the time. That was kind of crazy how, because I was working on that video long before Epstein came back into the news.
Mm.
That was the only video of the past maybe 2 years, maybe almost 3 years, that got limited ads, that got hit with the so. And I have seen other channels who have gotten limited ads put on their videos for showing much less than I do and talking about much less controversial content than I do. Even that Sam DuBose video, I blurred out some of the actual shot and the body cam footage for the YouTube release.
Yeah.
But even still, I feel like there's a lot of things in that video that could have gotten that video unlimited or demonetized, and it still sits, monetization eligible to this day. So I have this theory that YouTube calculates or analyzes what your channel is about, and then within the context of your channel, that's how they decide the monetization or whether or not they're going to demonetize it. So I think early on I was getting demonetized a lot, but over the past few years I haven't really been getting demonetized too much, and I can't help but wonder if that's because, well, this is the genre of content. There's a lot of true crime content on YouTube, and if you just demonetize every single piece of true crime, now YouTube doesn't get any revenue from a huge genre. It's still huge and growing. So I haven't had too many problems. Fingers crossed on the demonetization or them sort of suppressing my video for that kind of thing. But we'll see how that goes in the future. I know everyone's beholden to sponsors and credit card companies now. So
right, and it is so frustrating to watch on behalf of the people that I know are they're making this stuff, for as much effort as they put into it, to be denied compensation for it because they used a word that accurately describes reality. It is so silly to have to walk on eggshells for that stuff when you're not doing it in a malicious, exploitive way or something, or that, because I said the S word, now I'm encouraging that behavior in someone. It's so silly. Although I did come up with my own custom alternative for I call it subtracting yourself from the equation of life.
That's good.
That's my best take at it. But yeah, I really want to have a powwow sometime with maybe you and maybe like Misery Machine and some other people on there to talk about all the trials and travails of dealing with placating YouTube's oversensitivity to words and other such things.
The most I've done, I think, was just like bleep out part of the word. I think that happened like once or twice a long time ago, but I haven't had to go through that in a while. And it doesn't make sense to me because it's like I said, it's like hopefully we're all mature enough to understand this is within the context of analyzing a case or discussing a case.
Yeah. It feels condescending on the one hand, childish, and also counterproductive. It's like, how do I describe reality? It doesn't have to get into, depending on the story, you don't have to get into the quote unquote gory details of something that happens. If you just need to describe, what was it they used to say back in the old newspaper days when a woman was, she was ravished or something. They'd use that word.
I'll say assaulted, like something like that, because you get the same idea and you're not sensationalizing it.
Yeah, violated, something that's general enough to go to give you the nudge, but you don't have to get into the details. That's fine, but still, But something else I wanted to ask you. I have notes. I did take notes because I'm a smart person. So you are currently monetized. Would you do this if you couldn't reliably be monetized? Is this a passion for you, or have you sought to make this a either career or side income?
This has always been sort of a side thing for me. Even if I wasn't making money off of YouTube, I probably would still make videos. I just enjoy the process of like researching cases and then putting something out there. Like, it's almost like you're making a little mini movie and just having people watch it. I have a full-time job too. So,
Yep.
You know,
Same here.
if YouTube wasn't bringing in anything, I probably wouldn't be uploading. I try to upload every 3 weeks. That's sort of my litmus
Mm-hmm.
for how active I am. Is all right. If I can get a video out a month, then I'm doing pretty good. But maybe if YouTube wasn't paying out, it probably would be a little bit less. But it's definitely a little bit of an impetus to work on new stuff, which I enjoy doing. So it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, if YouTube didn't pay, I still would put stuff out there, maybe more sparingly, but definitely I would still like to put stuff out there.
Yeah, it always seems like an uphill battle to get that oomph to do it. And I know from my own experience, there's all this buildup in making a project, and then it's like you want to do it right, you want to get it out there, you want people to see it, you want to get their reactions, and then after you finally released it, there's a brief high, and then there's kind of an emptiness that you don't have that focus anymore. Do you experience that after a project's been completed?
Yeah, I've actually sort of reorganized my workflow when it comes to that. So I would work on a script for a video, record it, edit it, release it, and then it'd be like, all right, let me take a step back and now work on the next one, like after that breather. Now, usually by the time I get to the point where I'm editing a video, I'm already outlining a script or ideas for the next one. So I try to always be working on something in the background, just so there's not too much downtime. The Sam Dubose video took a little bit longer, a little bit more in depth. Sure. So that one took more time. But even as I was sort of wrapping up that one, I was outlining my next video, and it kind of goes into certain thought processes too, where it's I don't know if you ever heard this anecdote about Christopher Nolan, but they always had this thing where he was like, he'll make one for them, one for me, like one for them, one for me.
The shots of things, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like one movie for the masses and then one passion project kind of thing. Right. So I have certain videos that in my head I'm like, this is going to do a little bit better view-wise.
Because it's more commercial, or
it's more it'll thrive a little bit better in the mainstream. And then certain videos that are like, all right, this is just one, like the Sam Dubose one was a passion project for me. The AI, I don't know if I did a video on AI dating, which is like, that's kind of left field.
When I saw that, I was just like, beside the dying fire, AI dating? Okay, sure.
But that was just something I had on my list for such a long time. I wanted to do a video on that, and I was like, let me just do it. And I didn't really have too many expectations on that one doing great, but it was one I wanted to do. And then the next video, which I already have sort of coming to the conclusion of the script writing process of, is about serial killers. And that was
in particular?
So I'm going to be doing it. They're all, if
you want to give it away, you don't have to give it away if you don't want to. I don't want to.
No, yeah, I'll give it away. If this becomes a series, I'll reach into the bag for more obscure ones. But for this one, I'm going to be doing BTK.
Sure.
Yeah, the Dennis Rader interview, and there's still some stuff to talk about with him there. Who else am I doing for this one? Richard Ramirez, doing the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And then the Ted Bundy interview, which is a very popular, prison interview with James Dobson before he was executed. But I think there's still a lot of things to say about that interview, even though because people have seen those clips over and over and over again. But when you really break down how manipulative he was, even in the selection process of that interview, who he chose to interview him, the topics that they chose to talk about. So I think if there's something, even though it's a very popular interview, if there's something I feel like that can be extracted from it that isn't so widely talked about, I still think it's worth it. And plus, serial killers are so popular now, obviously.
Yeah.
So I figured that's going to be one that does a little bit better, view wise in my estimation, but it's still something I like doing.
Yeah. The aspect of the Bundy one that I always found interesting. I mean, I haven't watched every documentary on Ted Bundy, but is the interviewer had his own agenda in kind of using Bundy to push his own message on certain moral things at the same time. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, there's a serial killer that I haven't seen Many people, and maybe this will be on your list. I don't know. Randy Kraft, the scorecard killer. A lot of people. There's a great book I read when I was like a teenager called Angel of Darkness or something, Angel of Death maybe, and that guy's story is absolutely wild, and they still don't know the full extent of what he did.
Huh.
But
I'm actually writing that one down.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Look at I mean, there's you're probably not going to. I mean, you're not going to find any news footage unless somebody else has already done a documentary on it or something. But yeah, his story and what he did and how he did it, and of course, for those of you that don't know, aren't familiar with the guy, how he was caught. It was one of those just dumb / good luck situations. He was completely. Yeah. Anyway, I won't give it away too much, but Miranda Stone in the chat did have a good question. Do you have a Discord server or any other kind of place where people can interact with you?
I do not. I'm really bad with all that stuff, and I was even off of X and Twitter for such a long time, so that's kind of where I am now. But
well, unfortunately, you've let the queen of the Discords know that you don't have a Discord server, and she might offer to help you set up one.
Yeah, I made one a long time ago, but I never did it. It all seemed very confusing to me at the time.
Okay. Well, it is out there as an option. I have one myself now. It's fairly low maintenance for me because I don't do a whole lot, just a place to chat and advertise shows and kibitz with people. Keep it low key, and what I do to sort of moderate attendance is I only let people in who give me the secret word, and I make up a new secret word after every stream.
Oh, nice.
So that only people that are actually watching the show, and it also filters out bots and maybe people who are, or other things going on. So that helps it keep it nice and mellow. I wanted to ask, because my last, and this is years ago now, true crime video was on a guy named Alonso Perez. And Alonso Perez was a crazy story. So this is my process, and I'm curious if this is similar at all to what you have to do. And so I want you to think of, if you will, for a moment, the story you had to do the most research on to this point. Maybe it was the most latest video, maybe it was something else. So I wanted to know this guy's story, and it wasn't like huge national news at the time because it happened in 2016, and there's a lot of other things going on in 2016. And so I had to find the timeline of events was split up amongst different publications in different stories. One story would have this part of this event, and then another publication would have that part plus this, and maybe a little bit over here on a different one. And so I had to have this giant list of articles, and then I had to create this second document of just the timeline of events as I found them, and then I had to write the script of narration around this set of events. And now if you go to the video and you look in the credits or whatever, I had to create a paste bin for all of the articles I had to reference to make this story because it was so shotgunned all over the place and not one single outlet covered the story in any completive way. Have you encountered a story like that? And what's been your experience in trying to, craft a narrative around a maybe not well-known story?
Yeah, that definitely comes up every once in a while. So the Sam DuBose video, it took a lot of research, but everything was pretty chronological. Like I could find everything in the order that it happened, which benefits during script writing because then I could just flow right through it. In recent memory, I think one that was a little bit more difficult to piece together was I did a video on David Taylor.
Remind me.
He's a preacher, like a mega church pastor who was like embezzling a ton of funds, and his deposition tape was released years ago.
Right. Yes. I remember now. Yes.
And it's a great watch because it's just, nobody dies, so you kind of feel fine making fun of them. That's the thing that's hard to insert humor into certain cases because it's like it's very sensitive. I think Matt O'Toole does a great job about that. That's kind of besides the point. But the David Taylor video was kind of difficult to piece together because he had multiple depositions over the course of a few years, and he's like kind of wearing the same outfit in all of them. and they're
Oh
filmed in the same
no.
way. So it's like, which one came from the
Oh,
2014 deposition, which one came from the 2015 deposition. And
right.
then he had certain things he was accused of years ago. And then finding his criminal history was sort of hard to find because he went by another name. And then he changed the name of his megachurch and his organization a couple times. So it's like, okay, what year did he change this name? Which name was his church under when he was getting accused of this? So that was confusing. That actually was so confusing. I started working on that video probably like a year and a half ago, and then I
Oh
abandoned it
geez.
like, a third of the way through because it was just like
Oh
and then I recently
man.
went back and I was like, I gotta finish it. And then what's interesting is like a week before I finished it, he got arrested. He was arrested, and it was so I was like, I had to write like another ending segment about him getting arrested. But I was like, oh, it's
Oh,
good timing. But that was hard to piece together just because his record was so long and so full of name changes and different depositions and different accusations and different people in his hierarchy who took care of different parts of the embezzling process. It was kind of a mess.
well, at least you had the luck of an update happening before you published
Yeah, that
that you could
was
update to. But at least you're already kind of you were prepared for that event because you were already so working on it. Most channels, it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't like videos being put out about cases. It depends on the circumstances, but most times, if the case hasn't reached a resolution yet, I get kind of, or like body cam footage, like this person was arrested, they were charged with this, and like, and are you never
yeah.
going to tell me? Okay,
Yeah, I only do that if it's like a compilation where I'm just like showing a bunch of them for like not specifically about that case. Like I used to have a series about uh, escalation of violence, where
mm-hmm.
violent police encounters, and the premise of the video wasn't really the case. It mainly was analyzing, well, what led to a weapon being fired or what led to this. So the actual case itself came secondary to that. But yeah, you're right, and that's actually why I haven't done a video on Lisk yet. I get in the comments all
Oh,
the time because I mentioned I'm from Long Island, so
right.
everybody's like, "Why don't you do a video on Lisk?" And it's like, well, because there's really nothing to be there's no resolution yet. We don't really know.
Yeah,
We'll see when he
yeah,
goes on trial.
yeah. You can tell the documentary, or you tell the story of the mystery of who it was and all the
Yeah,
potentially linked killings and things. But until there's some channels that handle it in a more sort of segmented way. I think of Dreading, if you know Dreading.
yeah,
They'll do videos like on the case, and then they'll be sure to say, as soon as this goes to trial, we'll be back, kind of thing. And that makes more sense. But unless you're getting that caveat to the audience ahead of time, just like here's some body cam footage of this. You see these all the time now. These compilation AI channels with like,
yeah,
5 different videos of body cam footage of somebody being caught at their place of work embezzling money, and then that's it.
yeah.
And like, okay, and
It's
but
like I can just watch that on my own. Yeah, I always
yeah,
feel like I like compilations, but I also like when it's tied together with some sort of a narrative.
yeah,
One of my favorite videos that I put out, it sounds so like cocky to be like, oh, this is my favorite video.
no,
But the video
hey,
that I was probably the most proud of at the time was, it was
mm-hmm.
a video called Something Didn't Feel Right.
Hmm.
And I had it was footage from, it was sort of an amalgamation of footage from the Israel Keys abduction, where
Mm-hmm.
he abducts, I forget her name, but that girl from a coffee cart in
Oh,
Alaska.
geez. Yeah, no,
I
yeah.
looked at that case so many times. I feel bad that I'm forgetting the name now.
It's on the tip of my tongue
Yeah,
because I remember her name. It was like her last name was like German or something. I don't.
yeah.
I'm kicking myself right now.
And then I had snippets of BTK in there, some other. So it was basically a compilation of different media from these killers, but the
Mm-hmm.
through line was, it almost was kind of like, have you heard of that book, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker?
I have not.
It's so that the premise is pretty much like you're given this primal sense that something is wrong,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and people will fight against that sense because of societal pressure to be polite.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that can get you into trouble because, if you happen to, which is rare, but if you happen to come across a truly evil person,
Hmm.
who's very manipulative and very good at fooling people, someone like Ed Kemper or um, Israel Keys, Ted Bundy, one of these guys who seem very normal and are very good at doing that, um, that could cost somebody their life. So
Sure.
basically, the whole point of that video was listen to your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, maybe it isn't, and it's better to be safe than sorry. And that was the whole through line of the video that connected all those pieces together. So
And
yeah,
in
but
the
yeah,
chat, Miranda Stone has given the link to your video there for everybody's reference. So thank you,
yeah,
Miranda Stone. Appreciate that.
and that's why yeah, I agree with you. I don't like just
I apologize. I'm being called by work. Can you hold on 1 second?
yeah, no
Sorry.
worries. I thought I saw a question from Miranda here. See if we can keep this going while he's on the phone. How did I get started? Was I always interested in true crime? Yeah, I've always been interested in true crime. My channel has taken a lot of hard rights over the years. I started off by doing scary stories, and then the first true crime video I did was a death in room 348, which was my first fully researched case that I did, and I was really proud of that one at the time. But if you look at the original release, it's like all black screen. Like it probably could have been a podcast. Um, but that was my first true crime video. And then I always listened to podcasts like Crime Junkie, and I liked watching Jim Can't Swim, JCS videos, even back in the day when he first released the Chris Watts 3-part series. I always enjoyed watching those. And then it sort of just naturally evolved to doing my own true crime cases. And at first they weren't focused on interrogation room footage or um, body cam footage. It was just sort of telling the story, similar to Crime Junkie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that podcast, but basically they just talk about true crime cases. They just tell the story, and so that's what I was doing for a while. And then I find the footage sort of contextualizes everything and sort of gives people something else to watch. To make the case come a little bit more alive. And it also helps with the analysis too. Miranda also says, do you enjoy trials as well? I do like trials. The problem with courtroom footage or trials, I find, is they are hours and hours long. They're very, very long. And you really only, or for me anyway, I only like including the parts that are interesting or the parts that give you more context as to what's going on in the case. And to get that 5 or 10 minutes of footage that's interesting enough to include in your video, you're going to have to watch hours and hours and hours of the courtroom footage. So the trial footage is really great. You just have to really pick through it. Because I don't like just slapping down, like we were saying, an hour of courtroom footage with no context and just expecting people to watch that. I'd like to think that if I put something on my channel, it's going to be curated, it's going to be edited, it's going to have a point, it's going to be self-contained. So yeah, Miranda says sometimes like 80 hours. Yeah, there's a lot of trial footage. The ones that I used recently were the Sam Dubose video, which was mentioned. There's a lot of trial footage there. Then I also did a video on sovereign citizens.
Apologies for that, guys. Real life found its way into the wonderful world. And of course, somebody says, I have a quick question. And that quick question turns into that long of a delay. So apologies to you guys, and mostly apologies To you, Dying Fire, I didn't mean for that to go on as long as it did.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's never
Okay. Did you talk to the audience, or am I safe to clip that whole blank area out?
I just
Later
answered
on?
some of the questions that were in the chat just to try
Then
to
I will
keep it
leave it.
going.
I will leave it. Thank you so much and thank you guys for your patience and everything. I apologize for that. I completely lost my place, and we're coming up on our resolution time. Does anybody else? Oh my gosh, who's this? The Misery Machine. Scribe, you don't have to tell us your ringtone. Also, what's up, Dying Fire? Glad to see some new blood on Borrowed Crime. Well, Drewby and or Yurgi, whoever's manning the shop over there, nice to see you. My ringtone. So there's a song called Flame by a band called The Sebadoh. And if you look up that song, the opening riff is my ringtone. I wanted to have something at the time unique enough from everybody else's that I know it's my phone. It's also a pretty catchy song in my opinion. So if you want to look up Flame by The Sebadoh, that's Sebadoh, I think it is. Are you aware of Misery Machine, Dying Fire?
No, actually.
Oh my
I'm up
gosh.
right now.
Yeah, so Misery Machine.
I gotta admit, I'm not as good at keeping up with other channels as I
Well,
could be.
I pride myself in bringing people together in the genre as opportunities occur. Misery Machine is made up of Drewby and Yurgi, and they cover, as the title might suggest, some of the not exclusively, but in more often than not, cases involving children. And it's pretty heavy stuff, but they do an excellent job at really paying respects to the victims and underlining the weaknesses in the system, oftentimes that lead to or contribute to the outcomes. And they've been guests on the series a couple of times now, and I've had great time talking to them, and both on and offline. I know I'm showing off my ignorance of all of your content. Have you focused much on any crimes in family crimes or crimes involving children?
So I had a script worked up a while ago about it revolved around family annihilators.
Yes,
but there was just so
Chris
much.
Watts.
Yeah, Chris Watts. There's some other ones too, and I've always meant to revisit that script and finish that video. The only other thing I did was I did a video on online predators. It's probably like a year or 2 years ago. But otherwise, no, not too many family crimes. But I did have that family annihilators video is one that it's been on the docket for a while now.
Is there any subject that you reflexively or just by rule shy away from, or would shy away from, generally speaking, when it comes to this genre?
There really isn't too much that I wouldn't discuss, especially if there was something to be learned or a point to it. Even something grisly. I always consider doing something that's usually a pretty sensitive one is a video on like Columbine or school shooting. That's another one that I sort of put on the list is the analysis of school shootings and what leads to that in different cases, which I feel like that a lot of people might shy away from something like that, but I feel like as long as it's not exploitative and you're not glorifying anything and you're trying to teach a lesson from it, or you're trying to extract something from it, and the audience isn't just going to walk away from it feeling like I didn't get anything from that other than the glorification of violence or exploiting a tragedy, then I think it's worth talking about as long as there's a point.
Yeah, that's maybe a subject for another time, of course, and I've talked about this several times on the series, is where's the line between just exploitation and what I've heard called like moral true crime or ethical true crime. What distinguishes that? And it seems to me, well, first and foremost, I want to know that there's a person behind the thing and not just a computer and AI deal generating slop all the time. But also, like, how much time is paid towards the victims in any particular work? And I'm thankful that most of the people that I'm had an opportunity to talk to always take time out, and oftentimes the focus is the victims. Like the title of your latest video highlights the victim, doesn't highlight the person responsible for the death, which is always nice to see. But do you struggle with that at all, with the idea that maybe you're being exploitative, or how do you check yourself on that when you're making a video?
Yeah, it's it's tough because obviously the crime is what is drawing somebody to watch the video, right? And even in the video I'm working on right now about serial killers, I felt motivated to put a whole section in front. I put a post out on my channel actually that was basically was just like, comment why you think people are so infatuated with killers. And I'm using that as sort of an intro to the video, and then at the end sort of discussing what the research shows about why people are so infatuated with people who commit these horrific crimes. And it's sometimes difficult because that this is classified as entertainment,
right?
But it's more than entertainment to the people involved, right? It's their life. So there has to be a balance of showing respect but still making it interesting to watch. And then also even something like the title or the thumbnail or what how you choose to, quote unquote, market the video. It's got to be clickable enough to where somebody would want to watch it, but also not to the point where you're glorifying the person or being misleading with the title or thumbnail. So it's always a balance, and don't always get it right, but just try to do best I can.
Yeah, it's like, how do you find that? Is there a perfect balance to getting people's attention by highlighting what the thing's about, but you're not exploiting it, you're not glorifying it, but it looks like you kind of have to get people to actually want to click on your deal, especially these days with as many other bells and whistles that people put into their thumbnails or whatever else to get somebody to click on it. That's always a weird one.
Thumbnail design is such a thorn in my side sometimes.
Yeah,
especially with a case like where it's kind of like, all right, what visual thing is interesting about this? Like even with the Sam Dubose video, to just have like, because you see some of these videos and it's just like the thumbnail is just like body cam, like just a shot from the body cam. But
just a still shot.
See like 600,000 views, and you're like, what? And then I spend like 3 hours, over the course of a week, designing this thumbnail. It's just like,
and this is the thing that really gets me down, is because there is the market is absolutely flooded with this instantaneous fly-by-night stuff. And like I say, I haven't had to do it myself yet, but I have heard war stories about channels trying to acquire footage from police departments, FOIA requests, the costs involved therein, or the paperwork, or the ridiculousness. So channels that are able to obtain body camera footage. It's mostly, sunshine states like Florida, or sunlight states, where they just like make everything available effectively, with a very low bar. But I mean, and so the market is so saturated with what is, comparatively to what you do and so many other the channels I've talked to do, slop, that how do you find your audience when people are getting these instantaneous sort of like, oh boy, body cam footage of someone getting tased? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like a good tasing, observing at least, as anybody else. And I will admit that I've watched a few tasing compilations before. But an actual documentarian like yourself, like Misery Machine, like Mr. Black, like Dave's Lemonade, who puts the time and the effort into these things, I don't have an answer to this question, but I'm just like, I really hope that that stuff somehow bubbles to the top more, because it seems like it's getting drowned out by cheap stuff. I did want to ask, though, you have an amazingly good voice. I don't know if people have told you that. You have a very soothing tone when talking about serious things. Do you have any previous broadcasting experience or production experience that you had prior to this?
I do not. I actually didn't even realize that I had a good voice until I started uploading videos and I started seeing those comments.
I see. I only just recently revealed my face after 9 years of just being an avatar, and people were like, "You look exactly like you sound." I don't know how to take that. They're like, well, do I sound okay? Yeah, it's kind of weird to hear compliments about things that you either aren't that jazzed about or
Well, you saw me before this started. So
I
what
did.
did you think? How did the voice
Oh,
match up to the look?
truth be told, it's kind of weird. If my only reference for someone is their avatar, my brain kind of just imagines their avatar talking. So for me, it was just you were a black and white contrast figure, just kind of like talking into a microphone. So I had no idea. But there's a couple of there's you. Although I have to say, Little Shop of Crime, Steve at Little Shop of Crime. If you want a voice to like fall asleep to while hearing about terrible murders, Steve at Little Shop of Crime probably is the best, most comforting, gentle voice out there. I will say that. But yours is pretty good. Yours is pretty good.
I've been accused of being AI before, and that was
Yes.
before I've started. That was before I started injecting or trying to inject like a little humor into some of these videos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had no idea about the voice thing until I started seeing comments.
Oh yeah, no, you've got a great voice for radio. Although I will say, and I'm not the greatest judge necessarily, but you do fine on camera too. There's a lot of channels that I remember. I don't know if it's still going on, but for a brief time, a lot of true crime channels were being dinged or flagged by YouTube as being suspected of being AI or something, and so they had to reveal their face for at least 5 seconds at the beginning of the show or something to sort of throw off the algorithm or prove that they're actually a human being. I think AM Glimpse was one of those, and maybe Disturbin. I can't remember, but I remember one or both of them decided to finally go on camera for the first time because they were being accused of being AI or something. So hopefully that's not a problem you'll have to run with. Chat, we are coming up on the resolution here. If you guys have any questions for Dying Fire, put them in the chat now. So your next project is going to be this serial killer sort of, is it going to be a series or kind of a compilation?
Right now it's kind of a one-off, just analyzing some manipulative tactics of serial killers, the things you see that make them similar, the things that are different, like Ted Bundy's very intellectual, the way that they sort of disconnect from their crimes by using this third person sort of language. Even someone like BTK, the way that they relate their crimes is almost in a like a lecture. You'd almost hear it like in a lecture. And psychologically, what does that mean? How are they disconnecting their own persona from these horrific things that they've done? That sort of idea. And if it does well, I might do another one with some lesser known serial killers. But I had this one planned for a little while, and serial killers are always in the zeitgeist. So,
Amy Williams, I found it ironic, strange the similarities between the Green River Killer and BTK. Yeah, let's see. Well, I mean, they both focused. Well, let's see, BTK. I guess we have to. I always see similarities between Green River Killer and Ted Bundy because they operated around the same time in the same areas ish. Yeah. And for a while, at least for a period of time, they thought Bundy was Green River Killer.
Yep.
And then they consulted Bundy about trying to find the Green River Killer. And I'm curious to know what similarities you see between them because admittedly, I'm not an encyclopedia. I'm more an encyclopedia on Green River than I am BTK because I was reading that book when I was a kid. Yes, your voice is smoothly calming. Oh, well, there you go. Misery Machine. We get accused of AI even though we are on screen. AI channels have made a lot of viewers paranoid. And yes, Disturbin had to start revealing his face because of improper flagging from YouTube. Yeah, I thought it was Disturbin. I think AM Glimpse might have also done it as well. And strangely enough, there's at least one channel out there that has captured Yergi's voice into an AI construct for its own content, which is just so scummy.
Yeah.
Stealing people. I mean, I want to call them Ursulas after the character in Little Mermaid for stealing people's voices. The Ursulas out there are taking people's voices and using them for their own weird ends, which I don't like. Miranda Stone, thank you so much for putting out Dying Fire's link there for the YouTube, on the YouTube, and also on the X Machine, guys. Yes, I forgot to mention I am simulcasting on X. For those of you out there that have an X account, If you see this on there, please share it out there for those on X that don't know about Dying Fire or my channel. I mean, just saying a little bit. So anyway, everybody, we're on a time crunch here. So Dying Fire, it's been great talking to you. Wanted to talk to you for a long time. Appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was nice.
Great. Everybody as well in the chat, in the description again, just look down. There's links there to Dying Fire's YouTube channel, X account, not Twitter now, and Patreon. So go check out those when you have the opportunity. Subscribe, watch his stuff, especially, I mean, not only, but especially his latest work. I tell you what, it is a feature-length documentary that I think is up there with some of the best Mad Orchard stuff. Just because of the depth and the obvious passion and effort he put into it. And I didn't ask him here. I specifically did, and I talked to him about it before the show. It leaves you at least enough to ask the question, if you were on the jury, what would you have decided? He doesn't go too far one way or the other, leaves it kind of open because it is kind of a complicated case. So take a look at the latest video on the Ray Tenzing DuBose shooting. And otherwise, Dying Fire, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. By the way, did you guys know, I think we mentioned it, I have a Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? Well, you can join the Discord server by clicking the link in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word tells me that you're not a bot, actually watch the stream, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is Dying Fire. What's today's secret word?
Let's see. Let's have a secret word be baloney.
There you go. Just say hello, baloney, and we'll know that you definitely watched this show. Otherwise, everybody, hope you have a good rest of your Friday. Hope you have a good weekend ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.